Have you ever wondered why you judge others so harshly for traits you claim you don't have? Why certain people trigger instant rage in you? Why their flaws feel personal, like an attack? That reaction isn't about them. It's about something you buried long ago. Carl Jung called it the shadow. It's every part of yourself you decided was unacceptable. Every trait you learned to hide. Every impulse you were taught to suppress. These parts don't disappear. They sink into your unconscious, growing in the dark. Your shadow forms early. As a child, you learned quickly what was acceptable. Anger wasn't allowed, so you buried it. Selfishness was punished, so you hid it. Vulnerability was mocked, so you killed it. You became who you needed to be to survive. But those rejected parts are still you. They're not gone, just hidden. Jung believed the shadow contains everything your ego refuses to identify with. The greedy part, the cruel part, the weak part, the part that wants what it wants without apology. Here's what makes the shadow dangerous. It operates without your awareness. When you haven't faced your darkness, it leaks out sideways. Through judgment, through projection, through sudden explosions you can't explain, you become the thing you swore you'd never be. Projection is the shadow's favorite weapon. You hate laziness in others because you've suppressed your own need for rest. You despise arrogance because you've buried your own desire for recognition. What you can't accept in yourself, you attack in everyone else. Jung said the shadow appears in your dreams as the figure you fear most. The intruder, the monster, the person chasing you through dark hallways. That terrifying figure isn't some external threat, it's the part of you that's been exiled, trying desperately to be seen. Most people spend their entire lives running from their shadow. They build elaborate personas to prove they're good. They perform kindness while seething underneath. They smile while their darkness grows teeth. The more you run, the stronger it becomes. Your shadow knows your triggers. When someone exhibits the trait you've repressed, your body reacts before your mind can catch up. Your heart races, your jaw clenches, your thoughts turn vicious. That's not moral judgment. That's your shadow screaming to be acknowledged. The shadow contains more than just negative traits. Jung discovered it also holds your buried potential, your repressed creativity, your hidden strength, your authentic desires. When you reject parts of yourself, you reject both the darkness and the light. Maybe you buried your ambition because it seemed selfish. Maybe you suppressed your anger because it seemed dangerous. Maybe you hid your joy because it seemed naive. Now you're half a person, performing wholeness while your real self rots in the basement. Jung believed the shadow must be integrated, not eliminated. You can't kill parts of yourself. You can only bring them into consciousness. Look at them, understand them, accept that they exist. This is the work that most people are too afraid to do. Shadow work starts with observation. Notice when your reactions are disproportionate. Notice who triggers you and why. Notice the patterns. The same anger, the same judgment, the same visceral disgust. These aren't random, they're breadcrumbs leading back to your rejected self. Ask yourself the hard question. What trait do I judge most harshly in others? Neediness, selfishness, weakness, attention-seeking, aggression. Whatever your answer, that's your shadow's calling card. That's the part of you that's been banished, waiting to come home. Jung said everyone carries a shadow. Saints and sinners, the kind and the cruel. The difference is awareness. The conscious person knows their darkness and chooses how to relate to it. The unconscious person is controlled by it while believing they're in control. Your shadow speaks through your relationships. You attract people who embody your rejected traits. Then you resent them for it. You choose partners who are emotional because you've suppressed your own emotions. Then you call them crazy. Your relationships become mirrors you refuse to look into. The shadow grows more powerful in isolation. When you're alone with your thoughts, it whispers. It tells you who you really are. It reminds you of every shameful impulse. You push it down, but it comes back stronger. Silence feeds the thing you're trying to starve. Jung warned that the shadow can possess you. When you ignore it long enough, it takes over. You become the thing you've been running from. The person who swore they'd never be angry becomes violent. The person who prided themselves on selflessness becomes resentful and manipulative. Society teaches us to fear the shadow. To be good means to have no darkness. To be healthy means to feel only positive emotions. So we split ourselves in half. We show the world the acceptable part and pray the rest never surfaces. But Jung knew the truth. Wholeness requires darkness. You can't be fully human without acknowledging your capacity for cruelty, your selfishness, your pettiness, your rage. These aren't flaws to eliminate, they're parts of the whole that demand recognition. The integrated shadow doesn't disappear. It becomes conscious. You know you're capable of anger, so you're not shocked when it arises. You know you have selfish desires, so you're not ashamed to acknowledge them. You become honest about who you actually are. Integration means dialogue. You talk to the parts you've rejected, you ask what they need, you listen to what they're trying to protect. Your anger might be guarding your boundaries, your selfishness might be protecting your depleted energy. These parts aren't enemies. The shadow contains your instincts, your survival mechanisms, your animal self. Modern life demands you suppress these. Be polite, be professional, be controlled. But your instincts don't vanish. They wait for cracks in your composure to break through. Jung observed that people project their shadow onto groups. Entire societies create collective shadows. We demonize others for traits we refuse to see in ourselves. We build enemies to hold what we can't hold internally. Racism, prejudice, othering. It's all shadow projection.
Your moral superiority is often shadow compensation. The more you insist on your goodness, the larger your shadow grows. People who never admit fault, who never acknowledge their darkness, who perform perfect virtue, they're not enlightened, they're in deep denial. The shadow reveals itself in slips. The joke that went too far, the comment you immediately regretted, the moment your mask fell and something ugly emerged. You apologized, you said that wasn't you, but it was. That's the part you've been hiding. Jung said meeting your shadow is the beginning of wisdom, not the end. Most people mistake awareness for completion. They identify their shadow and think the work is done. But awareness is just the door. Integration is the long walk through. You resist integration. Your ego built itself in opposition to the shadow. To integrate means to admit you're not who you thought you were. You're not just kind, not just strong, not just rational. You're also cruel, weak, and irrational.
The shadow holds your power. The parts you rejected often contain your greatest strength. Your anger holds your boundaries. Your selfishness holds your self-respect. Your darkness holds your depth. Without it, you're shallow. Nice but forgettable. Safe but half alive. Jung believed the shadow makes you interesting. Perfect people are boring. They have no texture, no contradiction, no humanity. The person who's integrated their shadow is complex. They admit their flaws. They laugh at their darkness. They're real in a way that makes others feel permission to be real too. The work never ends. New layers of shadow reveal themselves as you grow. What you integrated at 30 needs re-examination at 40. Your relationship to your darkness evolves. The goal isn't to eliminate the shadow, it's to stay in conscious relationship with it. Your shadow knows your secrets. It knows what you did that you never told anyone. It knows the thoughts you're ashamed of. It knows who you really are when no one's watching. You can hide from everyone else. You can't hide from your shadow. Jung said the shadow is 90% gold. The parts you rejected aren't all toxic. Much of what you buried was buried because it was inconvenient. Too loud, too much, too intense. You learned to be small. Your shadow holds your bigness.
The people who trigger you are teachers. They're showing you what you haven't integrated. Instead of attacking them, thank them. They're holding a mirror to your shadow. They're doing the hard work of revealing what you've been hiding from yourself. Shadow work is lonely. You can't perform it for an audience. No one applauds when you admit your darkness. There's no social reward for acknowledging you're capable of cruelty. The work happens in private, in the moments you finally stop lying to yourself. Your shadow appears in your fantasies, the revenge scenarios, the violent thoughts, the forbidden desires. You're horrified by them, you push them away. But Jung would say pay attention. These fantasies reveal what's been repressed. They're not predictions, they're information. Integration doesn't mean acting on every impulse. It means acknowledging every impulse exists. You can admit you're capable of cruelty without being cruel. You can recognize your selfishness without being selfish. Consciousness creates choice. Repression creates compulsion. The shadow tests your relationships. When you start integrating your darkness, you stop being nice. You start being honest. You set boundaries. You say no. Some people won't like the real you. That's the price of wholeness. Some relationships only survived because you were half present. Jung warned about the inflation that comes with shadow work. You meet your darkness and suddenly feel superior to those who haven't. You become judgmental of the unaware. That's just your ego finding a new costume. True integration is humble. You know your darkness makes you human, not special. Your shadow holds your unlived life. the career you didn't pursue, the person you didn't become, the risks you didn't take. These unlived possibilities haunt you. They appear as regret, as resentment toward those who chose differently. Your shadow is filled with roads not taken. The shadow speaks in symptoms: anxiety, depression, addiction, rage. These aren't random afflictions. They're your rejected parts demanding attention. Your body becomes the battleground for the war between your ego and your shadow. Integration is the only peace treaty that works. Jung said you can't individuate without meeting your shadow. Individuation means becoming who you actually are, not who you should be, not who others need you to be. Who you are includes the darkness, the contradictions, the parts that don't fit the narrative you've built. The shadow asks one question: can you love yourself completely, not just your strengths, not just your achievements? Can you look at your pettiness, your jealousy, your rage, your weakness, and say, this is also me? That's the test. Most people fail it their entire lives. Your shadow is patient. It will wait decades for recognition. It will sabotage your relationships, your career, your peace, until you finally turn around and look at it. The longer you wait, the higher the price. Jung believed the second half of life is for shadow work. Integration changes how you see others. When you own your darkness, you stop demonizing theirs. You see their shadow with compassion because you know your own. You become less judgmental, not because you're more enlightened, because you're more honest about your own capacity for harm. The shadow is the price of consciousness. Animals don't have shadows because they don't judge themselves. They act on instinct without shame. Humans split ourselves into acceptable and unacceptable. We create the shadow the moment we create the persona. Consciousness creates the wound. Jung's final wisdom about the shadow is this: it's not your enemy. It's the part of you that's been exiled, trying desperately to come home. Every judgment is an invitation. Every trigger is a doorway. Every moment of rage or shame is your shadow saying, look at me. The work is simple but not easy. Notice what you judge. Ask why. Follow the thread back to yourself. Admit what you find. Sit with the shame. Let it be there. Don't perform. Don't fix. Just see yourself completely. The shadow dissolves in the light of honest attention. Maybe you've spent your whole life running from the dark parts of yourself. Maybe you've built an entire identity on being good, on being right, on being above the messiness of human darkness. Jung would say you're not above it. You're just unconscious of it. The invitation is always there. Turn around. Face the thing you've been running from. Meet your shadow, not as an enemy to defeat, not as a flaw to fix, but as a part of yourself that's been waiting in the dark, waiting to be seen, waiting to be brought home. This is the work Jung dedicated his life to understanding. The shadow isn't your enemy. It's the part of you that you've refused to see. And until you see it, until you acknowledge it, until you integrate it, you'll never be whole. You'll just be half a person pretending to be complete.